The transport shuttle touched down on the landing platform of Veltris Prime with a loud hiss. Steam rose from the engines as the doors slowly opened. Katie Morgan took a deep breath and stepped out into the alien world. She was 22 years old, average height for a human woman, with brown hair tied back in a tight bun. Her eyes were green and sharp, always watching, always thinking. She wore the gray uniform of a new cadet, the same as everyone else. But she was not the same as everyone else. She was human, and she was the first human to ever set foot in the Galactic Military Academy. The academy sat on top of a mountain made of black stone. The buildings were tall and built from metal that shone like silver under the two suns of this world. Thousands of cadets from dozens of different species walked across the courtyards and training grounds. Katie saw creatures she had only read about in reports. The Corthony were the first to catch her eye. They stood over 8 feet tall, with thick bodies covered in bone plates that grew naturally from their skin. Their faces were flat and wide, with small eyes that burned with anger. They were known across the galaxy as some of the strongest warriors alive. The Cirith were different. They were thin and quick, with scales that changed color depending on their mood. Their fingers ended in claws that could cut through metal, and those claws dripped with venom that could stop a heart in seconds. They moved like snakes, smooth and silent. The Draven had 4 arms. Each arm was thick with muscle, and their hands could crush stone. They were tall like the Corthony, but leaner, built for both power and speed. Their skin was dark blue, and their eyes glowed yellow in the shadows. Katie saw all of these species, and more as she walked toward the central courtyard. She felt their eyes on her. She heard their whispers. Is that a human? Why is it here? Soft creature. Weak bones. No claws, no armor. Katie kept walking. She did not look at them. She did not react. She had prepared for this. She knew what they would think of her. Humans were new to the Galactic Confederation. Earth had only joined 3 years ago, and most species still saw humans as weak, primitive, and unworthy of respect. The central courtyard was a massive open space surrounded by the Academy's main buildings. 300 new cadets stood in rows, waiting for the welcome speech. Katie found an empty spot in the back and stood at attention. A platform rose at the front of the courtyard. On it stood a single figure. Commander Zorath was a Velthari, the species that had founded this academy over 1,000 years ago. He was reptilian, with scales as black as the mountain beneath their feet. His eyes were slits of gold, and when he spoke, his voice boomed across the courtyard like thunder. You are here because your worlds believe you are warriors, Commander Zorath said. His translator device turned his alien language into words everyone could understand. You are here because someone, somewhere, thought you were strong enough to stand among the best fighters in the galaxy. He paused and let his eyes sweep across the cadets. Most of you are wrong. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. This academy has trained soldiers for over 1,000 years. We have sent warriors to every corner of the galaxy. We have won wars that saved entire civilizations. And we have done this by accepting only the strongest, the fastest, and the most deadly. His golden eyes found Katie in the crowd. She felt the weight of his gaze like a physical force. Some of you should not be here at all. Laughter erupted from the cadets around her. A Corthony male standing nearby turned to look at Katie. He was massive, even for his species. Bone plates covered his chest, shoulders, and arms like natural armor. His name was Vex, and his reputation had reached Katie's ears even before she arrived. He was considered one of the most promising cadets in this class. Look at this, Vex said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. They sent us a pet to play with. More laughter. Katie did not react. Tell me, little human, Vex continued, leaning down until his face was close to hers. His breath smelled like metal. How long do you think you will last? 1 week? 2? Or will you run home crying after your first real fight? Katie looked up at him. Her face showed nothing. I guess we will find out. Vex laughed and straightened up. I like this one. It has spirit. That will make breaking it more fun. The welcome ceremony continued. Commander Zorath explained the rules of the academy. Cadets would train in combat, strategy, survival, and leadership. They would face tests that would push them to their limits. Those who failed would be sent home in shame. Those who succeeded would become officers in the Confederation military, leading armies across the stars. The final trial, he explained, would be a combat tournament. The last cadet standing would graduate with honors. Everyone else would be assigned to lesser positions. You have 6 months, Zorath said. Use them wisely. The ceremony ended. Cadets began moving toward their assigned quarters. Katie picked up her bag and started walking. A Cirrus female fell into step beside her. She was tall and thin, with scales that shimmered between green and blue. Her eyes were large and unblinking, like a snake watching its prey. You are the human, the Cirrus said. It was not a question. Yes, my name is Theska. I want you to know something. Katie waited. I do not hate you like the others do. I do not think you are a joke. Theska's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. I think you are a curiosity. A puzzle. I want to see what you are made of before I decide whether to respect you or pity you. Fair enough, Katie said. Theska smiled, showing rows of small, sharp teeth. Good luck, human. You will need it. She walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Katie found her quarters in a building reserved for cadets without natural armor or weapons. The room was small. A bed, a desk, a closet, and a window that looked out over the training grounds. She dropped her bag on the bed and sat down. For a long moment, she just sat there, letting the silence wrap around her. Then she pulled out a datapad and began to work. She opened files on every species at the academy. She studied their biology, their fighting styles, their famous warriors, and their greatest defeats. She read about Corthony combat doctrine, about how they relied on overwhelming strength and armored charges. She read about Cirith tactics, about how they use speed and venom to end fights before they truly began. She read about the Draven and their four-armed fighting forms, about the Veltri and their ancient martial traditions. She read for hours, until the 2 sons of Veltris, Prime set below the horizon and darkness filled her room. Katie could not outfight these aliens. She knew that. She was smaller, weaker, and slower than almost every species here. Her bones would break where theirs would hold. Her skin would tear where theirs would turn, blades aside. But she had something they did not expect. She had a mind that never stopped working. She had patience. She had the ability to watch and learn and adapt. And she had a plan. Katie Morgan had come to the Galactic Military Academy to prove something. Not just to the aliens who looked down on her, but to herself and to all of humanity. She would show them what a human could do. The combat trials began on the 3rd day of training. Katie had spent every free moment studying, sleeping only a few hours each night. Her eyes were tired, but her mind was sharp. She knew what was coming. The arena was a large, circular pit surrounded by raised platforms where instructors and other cadets could watch. The floor was made of hard-packed dirt, stained dark in places from old blood. The walls were high enough that no one could escape once a match began. Commander Zorath stood on the highest platform, looking down at the cadets gathered below. His golden eyes showed no emotion. Combat is the heart of everything we do here, he said. You may learn strategy. You may learn leadership. But if you cannot fight, you are worthless to us. He gestured to the arena. Today, you will be paired randomly. You will fight with training blades. The blades will not kill, but they will hurt. A match ends when one fighter yields, or when one fighter can no longer continue. There are no other rules. Katie felt her stomach tighten. No rules meant anything could happen. Aliens with natural weapons could use them. Aliens with superior strength could simply overpower their opponents. This was not a fair test. It was a test of survival. The pairings were announced. Katie heard her name called alongside another. Katie Morgan of Earth. Theska of Surin. A murmur went through the crowd. Katie looked across the waiting area and saw Theska watching her with those large, unblinking eyes. The Cirith female smiled slowly, showing her sharp teeth. "How interesting," Theska said. "The puzzle piece, right in my hands." Katie said nothing. She walked to the equipment rack and selected a training blade. It was simple, straight, and balanced. She had practiced with similar weapons during her preparation on Earth, but she knew that practice would only take her so far. Theska selected her own blade with casual confidence. Her species was famous for their speed in close combat. Cirith warriors could strike 3 times before most opponents could raise a defense. Their claws carried venom that paralyzed in seconds. Even with training weapons, Theska had every advantage. They entered the arena from opposite sides. The crowd of watching cadets grew quiet. Katie could feel their eyes on her, waiting for the human to fail. Commander Zorith raised his hand. "Begin." Theska moved Dot. It was like watching lightning take physical form. One moment she was standing still. The next, her blade was cutting through the air toward Katie's throat. It was the classic Cirith opening attack. A killing strike meant to end fights before they started. But Katie was not there. She had studied Cirith combat footage for 12 hours straight. She knew that Cirith warriors always, without exception, opened with a throat strike. It was built into their instincts, a leftover behavior from their ancestors who hunted by ambush. Knowing this, Katie had already started moving before Theska did. She dove to the left, rolling across the dirt and coming up on her feet 3 meters away. Theska's blade cut empty air. The Cirith paused, her scales shifting to a darker shade of blue. Surprise. Katie had surprised her. "Lucky," Theska hissed. "It will not happen again." She attacked again, faster this time, her blade moving in quick slashes that came from every angle. Katie did not try to block. She knew she could not match Cirith's speed in a direct exchange. Instead, she kept moving, always staying just outside Theska's reach, forcing the Cirith to chase her around the arena. The watching cadets began to laugh. "The human is running away. Fight back, coward." "This is embarrassing." Katie ignored them. She was not running. She was thinking. Theska was fast, but speed required energy. Every attack, every lunge, every quick change of direction cost something. Katie was slower, but she was also more efficient. She moved in smooth circles, never wasting motion, always keeping the same distance between herself and her opponent. Minutes passed. Theska's attacks grew more aggressive, more desperate. Her scales had turned almost black now, a sign of frustration and anger. She was not used to this. Cirith fights were supposed to be quick. Kill or be killed in the first few seconds. Extended combat went against everything in her nature. Stand still and fight. Theska screamed. Her voice echoed off the arena walls. "Stop running like prey." Katie did not answer. She was counting. Cirith biology had a flaw, one that she had discovered in an old medical study buried in the Academy's archives. When a Cirith became frustrated, their brain chemistry changed. They became more aggressive, more committed to each attack. And on the 4th or 5th aggressive push, they always overextended. It was not a conscious choice. It was biology. It was instinct. And it was about to cost Theska the fight. The Cirith launched forward in a furious rush. her blade aimed at Katie's heart. It was her fifth major push since becoming frustrated. Katie had been counting. Theska extended too far. Her balance shifted forward, her body committed to the attack with no way to pull back. Katie sidestepped at the last moment, caught Theska's wrist with her free hand, and used the Cirith's own momentum against her. Theska flew past Katie and hit the ground hard. Before she could recover, Katie was on her, one knee pressing into Theska's back. Her training blade pressed against the Cirith's throat. The arena went silent. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Even the instructors on the platforms above seemed frozen in place. Then, Commander Zareth's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Matched to the human. Katie stood up and stepped back. Theska rose slowly, her scales shifting through colors too fast to track. Her eyes locked onto Katie's face, and for a moment, Katie saw something she did not expect. Respect. How did you know? Theska asked quietly, so that only Katie could hear. How did you know I would overextend? I studied, Katie said simply. I watched recordings of Cirith fights. I read about your biology. I found a pattern. Theska stared at her for a long moment. Then she laughed, a strange hissing sound that made nearby cadets step back nervously. You are not what I expected, human. You are not prey at all. She tilted her head, her tongue flicking out to taste the air. You are a hunter. You just hide it well. She walked away, leaving Katie alone in the arena. The other matches continued, but Katie barely watched. She found a quiet corner and sat down, letting her heart rate return to normal. Her hands were shaking slightly. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her tired and empty. But she had won. A shadow fell over her. She looked up to see Vex, the Korthany who had mocked her on the first day. His bone-plated face showed nothing, but his small eyes burned with something ugly. You got lucky, he said. Theska was weak. She let her emotions control her. Maybe, Katie said. I will not make the same mistake. Vex leaned down, his voice dropping to a low growl. When we face each other, and we will face each other, I will not underestimate you. I will not get angry. I will simply break every bone in your body, one by one, until you beg me to stop. Katie looked up at him without flinching. I look forward to it. Vex stared at her for a moment longer, then turned and walked away. That night, in her quarters, Katie added a new file to her datapad. She titled it simply, Vex. She began documenting everything she knew about him. His fighting style, his strengths, his weaknesses, every match he had fought, every opponent he had faced. The other cadets thought she had won today through luck. They thought it was a fluke, a one-time miracle that would never happen again. They were wrong. Katie Morgan did not believe in luck. She believed in preparation. She believed in study. She believed in understanding her enemies better than they understood themselves. And by the time she faced Vex, she would know exactly how to beat him. Katie's victory over Theska did not earn her respect. It earned her enemies. In the weeks that followed, she noticed changes in the way other cadets treated her. Before, they had ignored her. She was a joke, something to laugh at and forget. Now, they watched her with suspicious eyes. They whispered when she walked past. They stopped talking when she entered a room. She had proven that she was not weak. And that made her dangerous. Vex moved quickly to turn fear into hatred. He gathered cadets who shared his anger at being embarrassed by a human. They met in secret in a storage building near the training grounds. Katie learned about these meetings through careful observation. She noticed which cadets arrived late to dinner, which ones had dirt on their boots from the same area, which ones nodded at each other in the hallways. They called themselves the Bone Circle, a name from an ancient Korthany warrior tradition. The original Bone Circle had been a group of elite fighters who swore to destroy any enemy that threatened their honor. This new version had simpler goals. They wanted to break Katie Morgan before she could embarrass them any further. The harassment started small. Katie returned to her quarters one evening to find her training equipment missing. Her blade, her armor pads, her practice weights, all gone. She reported the theft to the Academy administration, but they told her there was no evidence of who had taken the items. She obtained new equipment the next day. 2 days later, it was gone again. Katie adapted. She began carrying her essential gear with her at all times, in a bag that never left her shoulder. When other cadets laughed at her for this, she ignored them. She could not afford to lose any more training time. The food came next. The Academy served meals in a large hall where all species ate together. Each species had food designed for their biology. Human food came from a separate station. Katie noticed that her meals began to taste strange. Not poisonous, but wrong. A chemical analysis kit she had brought from Earth revealed the truth. Someone was adding compounds to her food. The compounds were harmless to most species, but caused severe nausea in humans. She started bringing her own food. Sealed packages that nobody could tamper with. The nausea stopped. Then came the messages. She found the first. One carved into the wall of her quarters when she woke up one morning. The words were in Korthony script, but she had learned enough of the language to understand. Leave or die. Katie installed a small recording device above her door. The next morning, she found another message carved into her wall, but this time she had footage of who did it. 2 Draven cadets, working quickly in the darkness while she slept. She took the footage to Commander Zorath. He watched it without expression, then issued formal warnings to both Draven cadets. They were not expelled, but they were watched more closely. The warnings did nothing to stop the harassment. If anything, it got worse. Vex was furious that Katie had gone to the authorities. He saw it as weakness, as proof that she could not handle things on her own. He began to escalate. One afternoon, Katie was walking through a quiet corridor between training sessions when Vex and 3 of his allies appeared in front of her. 2 Draven cadets blocked the path behind her. She was trapped. Vex walked forward slowly, his bone plates clicking together with each step. He towered over Katie, nearly 3 feet taller, and his shadow swallowed her completely. "You think you are clever," he said. "You think your little tricks make you our equal. You run to the commanders like a scared child. You hide behind rules and regulations." Katie said nothing. Her eyes moved from Vex to the Draven behind her, calculating distances and angles. "The final trial is coming," Vex continued. "And when it does, there will be no rules to protect you. There will be no commanders watching. It will just be you and me in an arena with no escape." He leaned down until his face was inches from hers. His breath was hot and smelled like metal. "I am going to crush your skull beneath my foot. I am going to hear your bones break. And I am going to enjoy every moment of it." Katie looked up at him. Her face showed no fear. Her voice was calm and steady. "You have spent 3 weeks trying to scare me instead of training. Every hour you spent planning these little ambushes, I spent studying. I have watched every fight you have ever had at this academy. I have analyzed your techniques, your patterns, your habits." Vex's eyes narrowed. "I know that you favor your left side because of an old injury to your right knee. I know that you struggle against opponents who attack low because your bone plates limit your flexibility. I know that you have never lost a fight here, but you have also never faced an opponent who was not afraid of you." She stepped forward, closing the distance between them. The Draven behind her tensed, but Vex raised a hand to stop them. "I am not afraid of you, Vex. I never was. And that is why you are so angry. Because for the first time in your life, you have met someone who sees you clearly. Not as a monster. Not as a threat. just as another problem to solve. The corridor was silent. Nobody moved. Vex stared at Katie with an expression she had never seen before. There was still anger there, hot and burning. But behind the anger, just for a moment, she saw something else. Then the moment passed. Vex snarled and turned away, pushing past his allies. They followed him, leaving Katie alone in the corridor. She stood there for a long time, letting her heart slow down. Her hands were shaking, but she did not let anyone see. She had taken a risk, confronting Vex like that. She had shown her hand, revealed that she had been studying him. She had shown him. Now he knew that she was preparing for their fight, but it was worth it. Because now she had seen his weakness. Vex was not invincible. He was not a force of nature. He was a bully who had never been challenged, who had never faced someone who truly understood him. And when the final trial came, Katie would use that weakness to destroy him. That night, she updated her file on Vex with new information. She noted his reaction to her words, the flicker of doubt in his eyes. She added details about his allies, the 2 Draven cadets and the others who had been present. The Bone Circle was still out there, still plotting against her. But now she had something valuable. She had seen that they could bleed. Over the following weeks, Katie built her own network. Not openly, not with formal alliances. She simply observed which cadets were tired of Vex's bullying, which ones had been mistreated by the Bone Circle, which ones might be willing to help her when the time came. She approached them quietly, one at a time. She did not ask for loyalty. She simply offered information, shared observations about the Bone Circle's tactics, warned them about planned harassment. Slowly, trust began to build. By the time the final trial arrived, Katie Morgan was no longer alone. She had allies scattered throughout the cadet class, hidden connections that Vex knew nothing about. The Bone Circle thought they were hunting her. They had no idea that she had been hunting them all along. The final trial took place on the last day of the 6th month. 100 cadets stood at the entrance to the combat zone, a massive area that covered several square kilometers of the academy grounds. There were buildings, open fields, dense forests, and rocky hills. Hidden passages connected different areas. Traps and obstacles had been placed throughout. Commander Zorath addressed them from a platform above the main gate. The rules are simple. You will enter the combat zone with only your blade and your armor. You will fight until you can fight no more. The last 10 cadets standing will graduate with full honors and receive commissions as officers in the Confederation military. He paused, letting his words sink in. Everyone else will be reassigned to lesser positions. Your dreams of glory will be over. Your time here will have been wasted. Katie looked at the cadets around her. She saw fear in some eyes, excitement in others. She saw the Bone Circle gathered in a tight group, with Vex at the center. He caught her looking and smiled, a cold and hungry expression. There are no rules once you enter, Zorath continued. You may form alliances. You may betray them. You may use any tactic you wish. This is not a test of honor. This is a test of survival. The gates began to open. Begin. 100 cadets rushed forward into the combat zone. Katie did not run with them. She walked calmly through the gate and immediately turned left, heading for a rocky hill that overlooked much of the area. The other cadets were too focused on each other to notice her. She reached the top of the hill and found a hidden position among the rocks. From here, she could see most of the combat zone below. She settled in and began to watch. The first hour was chaos. Cadets who had held grudges for months finally had the chance to settle them. Blades flashed in the sunlight. Screams echoed across the fields. Bodies fell. Katie watched it all, noting everything. She saw which cadets were stronger than she had expected. She saw which ones were weaker. She saw alliances form and break apart within minutes. Most importantly, she saw where the Bone Circle was operating. Vex had gathered his allies and split them into hunting parties. They were not fighting for themselves. They were searching for one target. Katie counted 12 cadets in the Bone Circle. 12 against 1. Those were bad odds, even for someone with her preparation. But she had planned for this. She waited until one of the hunting parties moved into a narrow valley between two hills. There were 3 cadets in this group, 2 Draven and 1 Corthany. They were looking up at the hillsides, searching for her hiding spot. They did not see the 2 cadets who had been following them. Rax was a Velthari, the same species as Commander Zorath. He had suffered under Vex's bullying for months. He had joined Katie's hidden network eagerly. Beside him was Gren, a Cirith male who had been friends with Theska. Theska herself had given Katie information about Vex's tactics. Even though she was not participating in the trial due to an injury, Rax and Gren attacked from behind. The fight was short and brutal. The Bone Circle members never saw them coming. Within minutes, 3 of Vex's hunters were eliminated. Katie smiled and moved to a new position. Over the next 2 hours, she repeated this tactic again and again. She would watch from hiding, identify an isolated group of Bone Circle members, and guide her allies to attack. Sometimes she participated directly. Other times she simply observed and sent signals. The Bone Circle's numbers dropped from 12 to 8. Then from 8 to 5. Vex realized what was happening. He gathered his remaining allies and stopped searching. Instead, he found a defensible position in a ruined building near the center of the combat zone. He would wait there, force Katie to come to him. It was a smart move. Katie had to respect it. By this point, the number of active cadets had dropped from 100 to 23. Bodies lay scattered across the combat zone. Medical teams hovered at the edges, waiting to collect the eliminated. Katie reunited with her allies. There were 4 of them left: Rax, Gren, and 2 others who had joined during the fighting. Together with Katie, that made 5. Vex had 5 as well. "What do we do now?" Rax asked. His scales were dark with exhaustion, but his eyes were still sharp. "We cannot attack their position directly," Katie said. "They have the advantage in close combat. We need to draw them out." "How?" Katie thought for a moment. Then she smiled. "I give them what they want. Me." Her allies protested, but Katie explained her plan. It was risky, perhaps the riskiest thing she had ever done. But it was also their best chance. 30 minutes later, Katie walked alone across the open ground toward Vex's position. Her allies were hidden nearby, but she appeared completely vulnerable. A lone human, approaching 5 of the deadliest fighters in the academy. Vex emerged from the ruined building. His bone plates were scratched and dented from earlier fights, but he was uninjured. His 4 remaining allies spread out behind him. "You finally stopped running," Vex called out. "I was beginning to think you would hide until the end and claim victory by default." "I am not hiding," Katie said. "I came to end this." Vex laughed. "End this? You are 1 human against 5 warriors. You have no chance." "Maybe, but you have been hunting me for 6 months. You have been telling everyone that you would break me, crush me, destroy me. And yet, here I am, still standing, still fighting." She spread her arms wide. "So here is your chance, Vex. Come and get me. Show everyone that you are not all talk." Vex's eyes narrowed. He knew it was a trap. He was not stupid, but he also knew that his reputation was on the line. If he refused to fight a lone human, he would look like a coward. His allies were watching. The instructors on the observation platforms were watching. The entire galaxy was watching. "Kill her," Vex ordered. His allies charged forward. Katie turned and ran. She led them through the ruins. ducking through doorways and sliding through gaps that were too narrow for the larger aliens. They chased her with rage in their eyes, focused entirely on catching her. They did not see the ambush until it was too late. Rax and Gren struck from the left. The other two allies struck from the right. Katie spun and joined the fight from behind. It was brutal, chaotic, and fast. Bodies crashed into walls. Blades sparked against bone and scale. When it was over, 8 cadets lay on the ground. Only Katie and Vex remained standing. Vex's allies had been eliminated. So had Katie's. It was exactly what she had planned. One human, one Corthony, and no one left to interfere. Vex stared at her with a mixture of fury and disbelief. You sacrificed your own allies just to get me alone? They knew what they were signing up for, Katie said. They wanted to see you fall as much as I did. You are insane, matey. Katie raised her blade. But I am still standing. Are you going to fight, or are you going to talk? Vex roared and charged. The final battle had begun. Vex charged with the force of a transport vehicle. His massive body moved faster than something that large should be able to move. His blade swung in a wide arc that could have cut a human in half. Katie was not there when it landed. She had already moved, diving to the side and rolling across the broken stone floor of the ruined building. Vex's blade crashed into the ground where she had been standing, sending up a shower of dust and debris. He spun and attacked again. And again. And again. Each strike was powerful enough to kill her instantly. Each strike missed by inches. Katie moved in patterns she had practiced for months, patterns designed specifically to counter Corthony combat style. She never stayed in one place. She never gave him a clean target. Vex grew frustrated. His attacks became wilder, more aggressive. He was not used to this. Corthony warriors were taught that overwhelming force was the answer to every problem. Hit hard enough, and nothing could stand against you. But Katie was not trying to stand against him. She was not trying to match his strength or speed. She was simply not there when his blade came down. "Fight me!" Vex screamed. His voice echoed off the ruined walls. "Stop dancing and fight." Katie did not answer. She was too focused on counting. She had studied Vex's fighting style for months. She knew every pattern, every habit, every weakness. She knew that he always led with his right hand. She knew that he favored high strikes over low ones. And she knew that his right knee was damaged from an old injury, one that he had never fully healed. She began targeting the knee. Small strikes. Quick jabs. Nothing that would do serious damage, but enough to remind him that the weakness was there. Vex tried to protect it, but that forced him to change his stance. His attacks became less powerful. His balance became worse. Katie kept moving. She kept striking. She kept waiting for the moment she knew would come. Vex was getting tired. Corthony were strong, but they burned energy quickly. His bone plates, which gave him such excellent armor, also added weight to every movement. After 10 minutes of fighting, his attacks were noticeably slower. After 15 minutes, he was breathing hard. After 20 minutes, he was barely moving. Katie was tired too. Her arms ached. Her legs felt like they were made of stone. But she had trained for this. She had spent months building her endurance, preparing for a long fight. Vex had spent those same months bullying other cadets and assuming he would never need to work hard. That was his greatest weakness of all. "You should have trained more," Katie said. It was the first words she had spoken since the fight began. "You should have taken me seriously." Vex snarled and launched himself forward in one final, desperate attack. He put everything he had left into it, all his strength, all his rage, all his wounded pride. Katie was ready. She had been hurting him throughout the fight, moving in slow circles that seemed random but were carefully planned. Now Vex was standing on a section of floor that she had identified earlier, one that had been weakened by age and damage. His weight came down hard on the weakened stone. The floor gave way beneath him. Vex stumbled, his right leg dropping through the broken floor up to his knee. He was trapped, off balance, unable to move. Katie struck. Her blade found the gap between his shoulder plates, the small space where armor met flesh. She drove the blade in deep, severing the tendons that controlled his sword arm. Vex roared in pain. His blade fell from his suddenly useless hand. Katie kicked it away before he could grab it with his other hand. Then she pressed her blade against his throat. The arena was silent. On the observation platforms above, instructors leaned forward to watch. The other surviving cadets, those who had not been eliminated, stopped their own fights to see how this would end. "Yield," Katie said. Vex stared at her with burning hatred. His scales had turned dark, almost black. Blood dripped from his wounded shoulder. "Never," he growled. "Kill me if you must, but I will never yield to a human." Katie looked at him for a long moment. She could see the pride in his eyes, the absolute refusal to accept defeat. Part of her understood it. Part of her even respected it. But she had not come here to kill. "I am not going to kill you," she said. "But I am not going to let you continue either." She pulled her blade back and struck him hard on the side of the head with the flat of the blade. Vex's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed unconscious. "Match over," Katie announced loudly. "Vex is eliminated." Medical teams rushed forward to collect the fallen Corthony. Other cadets backed away as Katie walked past them, heading for the center of the combat zone where the surviving fighters were gathering. There were 12 cadets left standing. Katie was one of them. They looked at her with expressions ranging from fear to respect to outright awe. None of them moved to attack her. None of them wanted to be the next one to fall. The horn sounded, signaling the end of the trial. Commander Zorath's voice echoed across the combat zone. "The final trial is complete. The following cadets have earned graduation with full honors." He read the names. Katie's was among them. She had done it. She had survived. Later that evening, there was a ceremony in the central courtyard. The 12 graduates stood on a platform while Commander Zorath presented them with their officer commissions. When Katie's turn came, she stepped forward and met his golden eyes. "You did not fight like a warrior," Zorath said quietly, so that only she could hear. "No," Katie agreed. "I fought like a human." Zorath studied her for a long moment. His reptilian face was hard to read, but Katie thought she saw something in his eyes. Curiosity, perhaps, or respect. "Your species is young," he said. "You have only been part of the galaxy for a short time. Many people think you are weak, primitive, unworthy of standing beside the older races." He pressed the commission badge into her hand. "I think they are wrong. I think your species will surprise us all. I think your species will surprise us all." Katie looked down at the badge. It was small and simple, just a metal disc with the Academy's symbol etched into its surface. But it meant everything. "Thank you, Commander." "Do not thank me. You earned this yourself." He stepped back and raised his voice so that everyone could hear. "Congratulations to all graduates. You are now officers in the Confederation military. Serve with honor." The ceremony ended. Cadets began to disperse, heading to celebrations or quiet reflections. Katie walked alone to the edge of the courtyard, looking out over the Academy grounds. Theska appeared beside her. The Cirith had recovered from her injury and had come to watch the trial's conclusion. "You actually did it," Theska said. "You beat Vex. You graduated at the top of the class. You proved them all wrong. I did what I had to do." "No, you did more than that." Theska turned to face her, her scales shifting to a warm golden color. "You showed the galaxy something it had forgotten. Strength is not just about muscle and armor and natural weapons. Strength is about using what you have, adapting, surviving, winning. She extended her clawed hand. Katie took it. I was wrong about you, Katie Morgan. You are not a curiosity. You are not a puzzle. You are a warrior. Perhaps the most dangerous kind of warrior there is. Katie smiled. And what kind is that? The kind that thinks. Zeska released her hand and stepped back. I look forward to seeing what you do next. I suspect the galaxy is not ready for you. She walked away, leaving Katie alone with her thoughts. Katie looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning around its small yellow sun. Her family was there, her friends, everyone she had left behind to come to this distant world. She had come here to prove something. Not just to the aliens, but to herself. She had wanted to show that humans were not weak, that they deserved their place among the stars, and she had done it. She had survived every strike, overcome every obstacle, defeated every enemy. But this was just the beginning. There would be more challenges ahead, more battles to fight, more enemies to face. Katie Morgan was ready. The galaxy had no idea what was coming.